Welcome to Fun and Games Side Quests. Every episode is a different host sharing a video game they love and why they love it.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Side Quest. We are at another 50 episode milestone, and for episode 200, I have assembled an incredible crew, a team of angry turtles, you might say, some teenage fighting turtles. I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but anyway, I am joined, of course, I guess before I get to who I'm joined by, in case you don't know, I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon. I am the creator and producer of this very series. I am one of the producers and hosts of Fun and Games, and then do way too many other things that I am not going to get into right now. You probably already know. And I am also, of course, joined by the incredible Geoff Moonen.
Hi there, everybody. I'm the counterpart to the rest of Fun and Games. I'm also voice actor, musician, and just all-around noisy human being. I believe I do machines. I don't know. We're going to argue over this. This is fine.
We'll talk about who's who. And then, of course, I'm joined by the one, the only, the legendary lockpicking rapper, Sulfur.
Hey there. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
I couldn't have imagined doing an episode on this game without you. So we are here to talk about the latest Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. It is developed by Tribute Games and published by DotEmu, who pretty much have done like every beat 'em up in the last however long. Like they did the Streets of Rage Return to Form. They did Double Dragon Neon, I believe, as well.
Did they do River City Girls?
No, River City Girls is way forward.
That was way forward. That's way forward. That's right.
But we are here talking Turtles, and the reason Sulfur is here is because one of the earliest records I remember listening to of Sulfur's is Sulfur did an entire EP about the Ninja Turtles. It came out shortly after the Michael Bay Turtles, but references the entire pantheon. And I kind of look to you, Sulfur, as like a Turtles expert.
Well, that makes me feel proud. That's what I've grown to try and achieve my whole life, so thank you.
Why don't we start by talking a little bit about our history with the Turtles games? Have you been playing the Turtles games since a kid? I know you love the cartoon and the comics and all the other stuff, but have you been playing the games all that time too?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Started with the NES Turtles game that everyone loves the water level on so much.
It's everyone's favorite level in gaming.
Damn that level.
I think that's like one of the top 5 like most scourge moments of all of gaming is that water level. It's got to be up there.
There's an incredible YouTube video that came out recently that explains how the programming of that level worked and why controlling in it was so difficult, why it was so wild. I need to figure out what it's called. Behind the Code. And part of it was also like trying to like do a ROM hack and fix the code so you controls easier. But even without that, it's an incredible look into. It's very vindicating to find out. Okay, it wasn't just me.
It was the game itself.
I remember early in Thought Criminal's history, which is I know Storm knows, but a band I have with my good friend Michael Kill, or a group that we've had for a long time. We used to do like YouTube promos for shows, and we did a YouTube promo for a show, and I don't know if it was the whiskey talking, but Michael claims to have beat that level on his first try, and I don't even know if he remembers that promo, but I've never forgotten it because I'm always mad about it somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, look, Michael Kill is a talented human being, but I'm skeptical of that claim. I would need proof. Of course, like any of us now, we go back to those classic games. And like I don't know about you, but I just suck. Like even Super Mario World, like some of the harder stages, I'm like, wow, I remember like blowing through this as a kid, and now it's like my old man fingers can't handle it apparently. And so I feel that way about the classic Turtle stuff too. Geoff, did you play a lot of the Turtle stuff growing up as well?
Oh yeah. No, I grew up. My console history was I had the NES until a few years into the PS1, and that was the only home console I had. So I played Turtles 1. 2, the arcade game, 3, the Manhattan Project, as well as the NES version of Turtles Tournament Fighters.
What? Oh. Wow.
Yeah. That's a. I'm super happy the Cowabunga collection has recently been released because I can finally let go of the grief of having sold that cartridge in college, and I have tried to get back a lot of my old collection, not the exact, but get those titles. The Tournament Fighters for NES is expensive. And look, I love Turtles. I had so many of the figures and the videos and everything as a kid. It is not worth the $250 just to have the NES Tournament Fighters. I'm sorry. You can be mad at me about that. But I played the hell out of those games. I'm a little brother, so my brother and I would play Turtles 2 and 3 with each other an awful lot. Neither one of us were ever able to get past the area past the dam in Turtles 1.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get past the dam, but never past the word once you got the party wagon and you're off and running. And then any of the other Turtles games has been sort of like revisits. When I was in high school, I finally played Turtles in Time, and it was incredible. But a lot of my Turtles knowledge and a lot of my feelings on it, and certainly the beat-em-ups, come from the full NES experience. And I remember it fondly, and I've gone back every now and then, and it holds up. It holds up. It's not perfect, it's not everything, but damn if it doesn't hold up.
Yeah, for me, my Turtles experience, I mean, I started, like all of y'all, with the NES. The first Turtles game I ever owned was the NES Turtles game, the first one. And then I did have 2 and Manhattan Project. I also had the Game Boy game where you could choose the different Turtles.
Fall of the Foot Clan?
Fall of the Foot Clan.
Yeah.
Which I thought was actually a very good Turtles game, even though that screen crunch was awful.
It's on the Cowabunga collection. It's worthy.
And then I had a Genesis and not a Super Nintendo growing up, so I had the Genesis version of Tournament Fighters, which was actually kind of spooky and weird. Like, you get taken to outer space and you have to fight clone versions of yourselves. And April was a playable character in that game for the first time, as well as Casey Jones, I believe. And then like they had these random other characters. It was very weird. Whereas like the SNES Tournament Fighters was more kind of cartoony Street Fighter-esque. And so like I always remember that dichotomy, and even having like Hyperstone Heist on the Genesis, which was essentially a bootleg Turtles in Time. Like it had the same assets and everything, but they changed the story. I think I've played every Turtles game up until the current gen. Like there have been some more recent Turtles games that have come out that I have not played, but like for the most part I've played all of them through like the PS3, Xbox 360 era, including the horrible Turtles in Time remake for the Xbox Live Arcade that like ruined that game. Like 3D graphics, but also they changed the boss fights, they changed like the hitboxes. It was awful. But yeah, I have a long history with the Turtles cartoons, comics, toys. I had so many of the toys that I'm sad to say I don't have anymore. And
I wish my family still had. I had as a toy box. It looks like a big ooze barrel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was filled with only Turtles toys.
Of course.
Nice.
As it should be.
As it should be.
That's incredible.
It's one of those things that also, like, the game we're here to talk about today is based so heavily on probably still my favorite Turtles cartoon. I do like the CG cartoon that came out a few years back. I think that's my second favorite, but, like, I grew up with this cartoon. And, like, I had the VHS with the Pizza Monster episode, and it also had the episode where Shredder thought he was Michelangelo.
Oh, yeah.
Two
Shredhead
classic
Mikey?
episodes. Shredhead Mikey.
Shredhead Mikey.
And then, so we are here to talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, which is a tribute to the 80s/90s cartoon. It is a tribute to old school beat 'em ups. And what I like to say about it is it plays how I remember these games playing. We talk about this a lot. Like, it feels so intuitive as someone who came up playing these games. But what I love about it also is it's not just a tribute in style. The original 4 Turtles voice actors were brought back. I believe April and Splinter as well.
Yes.
I think Casey Jones is someone new, and I know, of course, Shredder is someone new because James Avery passed a little while back. And I do appreciate that Shredder in this has his own style. He sounds a little different. Like, they didn't try and just do a James Avery impression. I feel like that would fall on deaf ears and would not be really a great tribute to him.
Good luck.
Yeah, I just let that live in infamy. My brain was broken when in like the 90s someone revealed to me like, oh, you know the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, that show you love? The dad? The uncle? Yeah, he's Shredder. And I'm like, excuse me? Does not compute. And then, of course, now as an adult, I hear it. I'm like, how did I not know, right? Like, it seems so obvious.
Voice acting is magic.
But I guess let's start by talking about what platform we played it the most on, just to like sell myself up river a little bit. I bought it. Jeff and I have talked about this before. We were given a code by Tribute Games for PS4/5, which we were both grateful for. We played a ton of it, but that wasn't enough for me. I also bought it on the Switch, and then I downloaded it on Game Pass PC. I have it everywhere. I've played it multiple times in multiple places, but we are grateful for our code from Tribute Games. Thank you. We did an incredible interview with them, if you didn't hear, at PAX East earlier this year. They were wonderful, and we are so thankful to be able to now talk about this game at length. But like, Sulfur, I'm curious where you played the game.
Well, first off, I'll say Tribute Games, I actually don't have it on PlayStation, so I'm just throwing that out there. But, no, I probably played it most on Switch, actually, because I believe this might even be crossplay, but most of the people I'm playing it with also are playing on Switch. So I grabbed it there. I actually grabbed it on Steam as well, but I've played it. Most of my time has been on Nintendo Switch with all of the No Friends crew. So
that's awesome. Like it has this like this. It just feels right on the Switch, right? A lot of these beat 'em ups do. I bought Scott Pilgrim on the Switch as well. So I've played through the game in full, I think twice, and then I've gotten most of the secrets. I'm assuming everyone here has beaten it. It's a relatively short game.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
No spoilers, guys. No, yeah, of course.
You fight the Shredder and Krang. And
I'm leaving.
I know. I do appreciate about this game that in the same way that it does play the way that you remember old beat 'em ups being, that you remember the old Turtles games being. It's a delightful smorgasbord of the bosses you remember as well. And even some obscure ones. I can't remember her name, the arcade boss. Where she's shown up before. I think she's from the comics. But
she's in the cartoon as well.
She's in the cartoon. She utilizes that to bring in other. She brings in Razor and Toka, which I don't believe were. I'm mixing things up. They were in Turtles 3, but like you were still able to have all of those come in and have appearances and things like that. And yes, of course you're going to fight Shredder. Of course there's going to be Krang in the body, but it's like who else and what else and how are they? And I want to describe a very interesting experience I had. In preparation for this episode, I played through a bunch of it with my spouse. And Sarah is a huge nerd, and we both play a lot of video games together. But we sometimes run into corners where I'll know a ton about a thing, she won't know much about it. And it's not an age thing or anything else, but Turtles is one of them. Because as far as she was concerned growing up, that was a boy thing. She was told it was a boy thing. So she's like, well, I'm not going to waste my breath on this. Let me do something else. This is very her. So I was playing Michelangelo, and she played the red guy, as far as she was concerned. And it was very funny playing through, and characters would show up and things would happen, and I'd like just say it or kind of point it out. She's like, cool, that's important, great. And I think that is to the game's credit, because they don't spend too much time leaning into anything at any point. So there's not any sort of belabored jokes. There's no huge gags. There are boss patterns that happen that you will recognize from a previous game. There are characters that show up that you just kind of have an, oh my God, I can't believe that's there in the background of one of the levels where there's TVs. The animation of Shredder that pops up is movement for movement. The Shredder taunting you on the TV in the original NES TMNT after he kidnapped Splinter. I checked. And all of those are there, but they're background, they're anything else. And so whether you know all these characters and love them and are delighted by all of the references and pieces, it's incredible. But also, if you just know them by the color, it's still a very fun beat 'em up, and it's comprehensive. And Sarah doesn't play a ton of beat 'em ups either, because it's very easy to get lost in who you are. And so deciding to play as one of the Turtles while I was a bold move, but she didn't lose Raph in any of it. So I think that is to Tribute Games' credit, to DotEmu's, like, to everyone's, what an amazing job.
One of the things I really love is, they took great care into making each turtle individual in their animations, the way they run, the taunts they have, all these different things. And I don't know that I've ever seen that before in a Turtles game. It seems like they're always treated as the same character with different bandanas and different weapons. And I loved it that they really did that. It seems subtle, but it's really huge to me. And that helped me tell them apart as well. Seeing Mikey run across the screen in the dumb way that he does, I'd instantly know, oh, okay, there I am right there. That's me.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah started by playing April because, like, oh, cool, I'll know who I am. But then for whatever reason switched it up and went, I like how Raphael plays better.
Yeah.
And even if the moves that they do are largely similar, how they play out and the slight differences they have in the stats do make a big difference. And you can have those favorites. And that I found it incredible that she gravitated so quickly to one. I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem with a lot of other beat 'em ups, and I love these beat 'em ups, like the Scott Pilgrim beat 'em up, for example, which I've talked about at length in many places. I love. The characters are effectively palette swaps. They have different special moves and stuff, but most of them move and feel the same. But then you have games like River City Girls 1 and 2 where like the characters actually feel and play differently. And this is more like that. I love that not only do all the turtles play at different speeds, like Raph and Mikey are faster, Leo is kind of middle, and then Donnie's a little slower, but like even the other characters, like this is the first time Master Splinter's been playable in almost anything that I can think of. And same for Casey Jones, a few of the fighting games I think he was in as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But like so before we recorded this morning, I played a little bit more of the game just to try out other characters and see the differences. And like I was playing Master Splinter, who I liked. He's really powerful, but he's so slow because he's older. He's meant to not like move around the battlefield as fast. And I clocked it immediately. And so then I switched to Casey Jones, who's a little faster and hits a lot harder, but still wasn't the speed I wanted. It wasn't until I switched to Mikey, because I of course already beat the game as Raph, who is the best Ninja Turtle ever, except in the late 2000s cartoon where then Robert Paulson is playing Donatello, and then he's the best turtle ever. But like, you know, but like Mikey was the speed I wanted. Like I like faster characters in those games. I like maneuverability, and I agree. Like especially in Turtles in Time, they're effective palette swaps. You can do like their TV show, like their comic book colors or something, and then they like have these different shades of green. But for the most part, they were still like played identically, except like even their special moves would like they'd careen across the screen in different ways, but it was the same thing. Whereas here, each character has multiple special moves. They all operate differently, and I really love that diversity of the game.
Absolutely. I started off playing Leonardo exclusively because he's my favorite Ninja Turtle. And my favorite thing about the favorite Ninja Turtle argument is there's never a wrong answer. You can say Donatello's the best Ninja Turtle, and I'll absolutely agree with you every time. Leonardo's my favorite, and I started only playing with him, and I wound up thinking that Raphael is probably my favorite Ninja Turtle in this game. Because playing as each of them is just so much fun, and getting to learn like the different ways they interact and strengths and weaknesses they have. It's really, really good stuff.
Yeah, I also love that this game added a ton of stuff for replayability. Like, there are hidden secrets to find, there are collectibles to get, and like, it doesn't really penalize you for not getting them, but you get little bonuses for doing it. You get skill ups and level ups. You know, there's a kill counter in this, like in all of the other Turtles beat 'em up games, but the difference is every 100 kills, or defeats, I guess. They're robots. It's no real murder in this. But like every time you defeat an enemy, 100 enemies, you get like extra health. You unlock a new move or a different special move or a different kind of attack. And I appreciate that they added that. They could have just let you mash buttons all day, but the fact that they added diverse abilities that you can unlock as you go, but you're not completely handicapped without them, I think is really great and good game design for a beat 'em up like this.
Absolutely agree. So, Jeff, I'm curious, what's your favorite turtle? I haven't heard that yet.
My favorite turtle, it kind of depends on when you ask me and how you ask me. Donatello is probably my perennial favorite. I grew up a nerd, and I like big sticks. What can I say? I have, out of any ninja weapons, I actually know how to use nunchucks. So that's... my spouse is also a second-degree black belt in Taekwondo and used to be an instructor. So when I came home one day with nunchucks that were gifted to me from a show I worked on, you know, very much a, look at these! Stop. I taught 3-year-olds how not to hurt themselves. Come. So I always feel a little bit of love for a fellow chucker, but probably my favorite, and it might have been because of TMNT, it might have been because nerd, might have been because purple's my favorite color, whatever arbitrary reason. Donatello's my guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. It's fun to hear the voice actors. Like, even though, like, there's no voiceover for the game. It's like, you know, it's beat 'em up sounds, and it's
sound bites.
Yeah, sound bites, one-liners. But, like, even, like, because Bebop and Rocksteady are in this, and they are also voiced by their original voice actors. And, like, from the minute Bebop speaks in level 1, you know, and the way he says, Toidles, like, I immediately latched on to, like, oh, I remember this. Like, it's just from the designs to the voice acting to what I love about the graphics is this game does what Jeff and I like to talk about a lot, which is something that looks like it could run on an old console, but absolutely could not. Like this has the aesthetic of like a Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis game, but it could absolutely not run on that hardware. There's no way.
Yeah, something I really loved in the boss fights is the fact that more enemies would spawn in, and not just in the way that the first boss of Turtles in Time, you need the foot soldiers to throw out the screen, which return to form on that was super fun on Shredder's Revenge, gotta say. But also the fact that, you're fighting Bebop or Rocksteady or Slash or Leatherhead or Ground Chuck or any of them, and just more enemies are coming in. It adds to the chaos. It means you're not just following around the one boss while you figure out how not to wail on each other. It means that sometimes patterns could be more interesting and intricate. And looking at it, I was like, man, why didn't the older games do this? Oh, because they probably couldn't handle this many sprites. And that is the primo version of just what you were talking about, Matt, what we talk about all the time. The fact that, yeah, graphically, any singular element of this could probably work on an older console. But everything together working in concert and working so well, that is what you need the modern technology for, and I think that's a great use of modern tech. That's where you're pushing the edge on this, and that's what you need to be pushing for something like a good, nostalgic, fun beat 'em up.
Beat 'em up is always, personally, it's always felt like the best format for a Turtles game as well. So some of the more recent Turtles games that came out, I was actually, I don't want to trash it. I liked it okay, but I was a little disappointed by the last game before this because they used a lot of the IDW comic art, specifically from an artist I really, really like, a man named Medius, who does amazing Turtles art. So I was really excited about that game. But it didn't include multiplayer right off the bat, and so right there, that's just like half of a Turtles game for me. It's like, oh no, okay.
It's about siblings, even if whether they're blood siblings or just your brother sitting on the couch with you and you're just getting mad at each other. Like Turtles is about family.
Absolutely. So this one, it captures that old aesthetic, it captures that beat 'em up, but like really kind of brings it into the new, and it does it really, really well. It's just man, it might be my favorite Turtles game ever, y'all. So
absolutely. One of the fun design things that was pointed out to me and Matt when we got to try it out at PAX East, and so I've been having so much fun pointing it out to people when I play the game with them, as, again, one of those little upgrade things, one of those other. Also, as a side note, Sulfur, I would love to see a Turtles JRPG. I don't know.
Oh my God. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
I don't know if I need 40 hours of it, but I think just a weird, almost like the way the Eastward has its own little Dragon Quest thing within the game. Like a little, what is that game you're playing on your Game Boy, Donatello, during your taunts? Oh, it's a JRPG about us. Whatever. Anyway, the thing that I love pointing out that was pointed out to us is when you knock enemies off screen, they don't go off screen. They bounce on the edge and come back in, which allows you to juggle them, which keeps the action going, keeps everything fast-paced. And all of the older beat-em-ups, they would go off screen, and you have to wait for them to come back on, or maybe they'll get a cheap pot shot at you as they jump kick back in, they dynamic entry into your head. And that was pointed out to us like, yeah, that does add to this. It doesn't feel too chaotic, but it keeps everything moving, and it's really nice. Sure. I was playing Shredder's Revenge recently with a good friend of mine who's also, like, action figure collector, comic book fan, like big old huge nerd as well, that pointing that out, he's like, yes, oh my God, that's what this is. It's the glass breaking moment of, oh man, those subtle bits of design. And for something as unsubtle and fucking ridiculous as Ninja Turtles, it's so great that little subtle design points add to the joy of the experience and what is allowing Shredder's Revenge to be such a rapturous joy to play.
Yeah, I agree. I think, well, also the addition of online play, like, that's the one thing that hurts me with beat 'em ups often is if I can't play online, my spouse will play these games with me. My spouse isn't a huge video game fan, but will often play games with me, especially if I recommend stuff. And, like, we've played the Scott Pilgrim game together, and they love that game. But, like, beat 'em ups aren't their favorite. They like walking sims and some other stuff. And so, like, mostly I play this alone, but I can so easily get online. The interface is so easy to party up from the menu screen or from the map. You can just join people's random games by going to a stage and seeing who's looking for help. Like, that kind of intuitiveness makes it feel like the team that it was always meant to be. And because there are so many characters in this game, because it's, it's got Splinter and April, and you can unlock Casey Jones, spoiler alert, I guess, for a beat 'em up. You can have up to 6 players on screen at once, which, let me tell you, when I played through most of the game with friends of mine and we got through it, just the 4 of us was chaotic. But, like, I've played online a few times with 6 players, and, like, that is the time where you cannot follow your character. And it's not because they don't stand out enough. It's because between all the special moves, the robots, the boss, like, it's just chaos, and it's great. I love it. It's just
X-Men
so much fun.
6-player levels of chaos.
Yeah. It's so brilliant, and I love that we're able to do that here. And I think that, like, well, first of all, also now knowing that you've been playing with the No Friends crew on Switch, like, I don't know where my invite's been, Sulfur. We're Switch friends, so like, I'm just gonna take that personally for a minute. But no, in all seriousness, like, I love how the online, like, you can just grab a bunch of buddies and play, and like, it doesn't require a lot of setup. Like, you may have to create a room and then people join, but beyond that, like, you're off to the races, right? And people can drop out, drop in. You can change characters on the fly when you die and lose all your lives. Like, I love all of that kind of quality of life stuff that the older games didn't have. And like, especially the era that we talked about the most, that Nintendo/Super Nintendo era. Like, it wasn't even a dream. Like, we couldn't even imagine that would ever be a reality. And now it just makes it so much easier to play a game that's designed to be played as a group.
Absolutely. As a funny contrast, a little anecdote, a few weeks ago, I was in Chicago for a friend's wedding, and Sarah and I found ourselves with a bunch of free time, so we do what we always do. We find local arcade bars. And so one of the ones we went to was, you had to pay for the drinks, but all the games were free. And they had the original Turtles arcade game. Not Turtles in Time, the original that Turtles 2 on the NES was based on. As mentioned before, Sarah's never really been a Turtles person. So you know what? We got our drinks and we played the whole thing. And she had a good time. I had a great time. And it was one of the reasons why it's like, hey, did you want to play Shredder's Revenge with me? It's like, that's like the arcade one, yeah? Yeah, why not? And so I got to get her take on all of those ways. It's just like, oh my God, this is so much better. Oh, this is so good. She was having the best time, enjoying all of this massive leap of evolution that we had to live through. But it's, again, really great to hear from somebody that doesn't have a turtle in the use race on this one as far as nostalgia. Yeah.
For sure. I think also we're contractually obligated, because we have a kick-ass rapper on the show, to talk about the incredible music in this game. Incredible music that I hadn't done a ton of research in, but mutual friend and incredible rapper, the one and only Mega Ran, has a track on this. And for me, knowing Ran as long as I've known him, for him to be on a Turtles game is just so cool. It's and I'm sure he geeks out just as much, but also famous Turtle fans, Ghostface Killer and Raekwon, are also on the game. They made Turtles references all the time in their rap, and now long before even nerdcore's a genre, it was just rappers being nerdy, and now they're on this. Mike Patton's on this. It's just got such great music, and of course the incredible T. Lopes, who did all the composition for the game. The thing I think I like best about this, I'm curious, Sulfur, how you feel about it, is not only do they make a ton of really great new songs, like those artists we mentioned before, but so many stages also give reference to music from the past. And they sample or reference old, the Krang boss battle theme is here. And I love that track. I'm curious how you feel about the music and if you think it holds up to the previous stuff or even surpasses it.
I kind of feel like it surpasses it, honestly. I feel like it surpasses it in a very reverent way, right? And it's kind of like the whole game, It takes the foundation of everything previous in Turtles games that were really beloved by us, and it builds upon those in this really, really beautiful way. And including, Mega Ran and, some of the people that it does, and, even just the compositions. T. Lopes did an amazing job. It's truly incredible. It's so good that I can't even be jealous of Mega Ran. I'll put it that way.
I love this for them.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. It's also really cool. It's funny. So I was when this first came out, I was listening to the soundtrack on Spotify a ton, and I'll be driving around, because when I drive around with my spouse, often I'll put on video game soundtracks because they don't often have lyrics, or the lyrics are downplayed, so we can talk over it in an easier way. And I put this on, and I think it's the first and second stages both sample a arrangement of the Turtles theme. It's not exactly, but during the bridge, there's the here's in a half shell kind of flow.
Yeah.
And after the first couple tracks, Sarah just looks at me and goes, "Are we listening to Ninja Turtles music?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's from the new game." They're like, "Oh yeah, I could tell because the theme song is kind of been in every song." My spouse also is a singer and a musician, so they know to look for that stuff. And it was just very funny to me, because I don't know that I noticed those arrangements originally, but now on multiple listens, oh, they're just paying homage left and right, which is pretty neat.
Which they were doing in the NES games as well, where so many of those level tracks, they don't have to do the melody, but yeah, that da 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 da, a tuneless rhythm, and you know what it is. You get that cadence going, like that's exactly as you said. And so you can put those in and layer those on, and then when you can just layer more and have a little more to reference, yeah, it's a big warm hug of nostalgia.
Yeah. It's really weird with Nickelodeon more or less owning the rights to the Ninja Turtles now. They've done a few versions. They did the CG version and then this new one, Rise of the Ninja Turtles, where they changed it up a bit. Raphael is the leader now. I haven't had a ton of time to watch it. I've heard good things, though. April's a person of color, which, like, finally. Like, let's have some not white people in these games.
Absolutely.
In these cartoons.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that, like, all of the new stuff has been really cool, and Nickelodeon has done a lot of really cool stuff. And, like, when a large brand buys something else, as we've learned, it's not always great. In fact, it's often worse. Monopolies are not good, y'all. But
They're not.
In this case, Nickelodeon kind of reviving this franchise, doing that CG cartoon, doing the new cartoon, and then, also, they are a part of making this game happen. To then also go, yeah, well, we own the rights, so why don't we go back to the past? Like, they could have easily made this beat 'em up based on the Rise of the Ninja Turtles or based on that CG cartoon or, like, literally anything. But instead, they went back to this classic aesthetic that adult gamers like us remember and are fond of, and then new fans of the Turtles can kind of just dive in. And I love that. And honestly, like, they haven't announced any DLC or expansions for this, but I would love, like, costume packs or like imagine a digital version of that CG cartoon or, like, pixelated versions of other, like, the movie Turtles maybe or something. Like, I think all of that kind of stuff would be really neat. I don't know that we need extra characters, but I feel like it would be fun to add that kind of stuff. But this is such a love letter to that specific moment in Turtles history, and everything in the game not only, like, leans into that, but then pushes, I think, beyond it, right? And makes it its own thing on top of it, paying homage to those classic moments.
Playing through this and then, kind of thinking back over all the Turtles games that led up to it and playing it and how it like, just built on top of everything. It just, there's something about it. It sparks this, like, 5-year-old in me. It makes me remember getting my first Ninja Turtles at a Rose's shopping center after I begged my mom for it. It just it probably carries, like, a little bit of memory and, like, emotional resonance with me that it might not be for everybody, but while I play it, I'm also playing it right beside my spouse who doesn't have any of that and is also absolutely enjoying it, and it makes me just feel like it really just knocks it out of the park all around. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It is a great equalizer in that. Yeah. Friends and partners and folks who have no nostalgia for the Turtles but like games are enjoying it. I've definitely shared it with friends who love the Turtles, but it's been ages since they've picked up a controller and had a great time with it as well. It just kind of, there's a little bit of something to draw just about anybody in. I'm not saying that makes it a perfect game, that makes it an incredible game, but it does make it a very good Turtles game. And as much as, yeah, a Turtles beat 'em up just seems like a no-brainer, we've seen plenty throughout several generations of games where, no, it's fine. We're not going to overcomplicate this. We're going to make a Turtles beat 'em up. But it didn't turn out too great. And whether that is because of the version of Turtles they used or the design philosophies of the time or whatever it was, a Turtles beat 'em up is not a no-brainer. But Shredder's Revenge does that wonderful thing in the same way that it feels, as we remember it, it feels like a no-brainer. It feels like an obvious home run. So you almost want to underplay what a great achievement and accomplishment it is. But it's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think also something to point out is the accessibility of this game.
Mm-hmm.
I get people wanting to play beat 'em ups that are tough. One of the reasons I bounced off of the first River City Girls in a way that I don't think I will with the sequel, because they've added some stuff in, is it's just really hard. And there was no online multiplayer. And so trying to get through those boss battles and stuff by myself, like, having strategy in beat 'em ups is fine. But I mostly like to mash buttons in beat 'em ups. Like, I just want to hit stuff. And so, like, games like Scott Pilgrim, which I love, you had to, like, buy upgrades and get other stuff and, like, replay levels to get beyond. Whereas this, you can kind of just, like, there are difficulty settings. You can just put it on easy and blow through the game and have a blast, or you can put it on very hard and, like, really struggle. And, like, it allows you to make that choice. It's not just inherent, and I appreciate that. And also, picking characters, again, the map and the menu, like, all of this just has made it so this game is way easier to jump into in a way that previous games in the series haven't always been, and then other beat 'em ups haven't always been. And I think that that's something I'm truly grateful. It also performs on every console absolutely beautifully. I haven't played it on a Xbox, but I've played it on PC. The PC version, the Steam version, the Switch version, the PlayStation version, there's no slowdown. It runs really well. The load times on the Switch version can be a little longer, but that's kind of par for the course. But they're not even that long, like especially comparative to other multi-platform games that are on the Switch. And I'm so always grateful when a game can play, because I love playing both on my couch, on my TV, and on my Switch. And when I can play on either one, and it runs just as well on both, that's always really exciting and fun to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that accessibility, I do want to talk about the challenges for just a moment.
Sure.
I love the challenges in all of the levels when you play through story mode because, a lot of them are, defeat this many enemies using traps or this kind of a throw or this sort of a thing. So it gets you engaging with the mechanics of the game, as well as ones where it's like, oh, you're on a jet board. Don't get hit by obstacles. Or the first level, get through unharmed. Some of them, it was so funny playing with Sarah because we'd start the level. She's like, all right, what are the challenges? We'd look and go, well, we're never going to get that one. Let's go for that one. And some of them you just kind of happen to get. You don't even need to know that they're there and they'll pop up, and that's super cool. I think that happened to us when we were playing through it at PAX East. Yeah. And you never need it to advance in the game. It's not a thing. It's not a lost world situation where if you don't get enough achievements or enough currency from doing the challenges that you can't unlock this piece. There are the side quests of like collecting things, but those are just collecting things. But the challenges make for, all of the levels are very replayable and very fun and very cool like that. But the challenges are good. All right, I'm going to get good at this level. Some of them are I just need to do a thing or I need to avoid a thing. And I appreciate that, allowing you to have the option to engage with each of these stages at whatever skill level you want, at whatever level of challenge you want. Because, yeah, the controls here, I'm not going to call them Smash Brothers-y, but they are a little bit of nicely simplified with contextual, conditional alterations to happen. I always had trouble throwing foot soldiers at the screen on SNES. Here, never. It was great. But you can kind of figure those things out and find those things. But if you want that bigger challenge, the idea of beat 'em up without getting hit, without beating, okay. It allows for a different engagement. And I enjoy when games allow you to come at it with the amount of challenge, of get good, of whatever it is that you want. And I think that is a great piece of accessibility that the game also possesses.
Oh, yeah. I'm curious. Have either of y'all got the Cowabunga Says It All achievement?
No, I have not.
No.
That's the one I haven't either. I saw a friend.
And
get
I've
it
even
from Twitter,
gotten
and I was
Cowabunga.
like,
It is. I think my
Yeah.
highest combo is like 160 something, and I'm like, ugh.
oh,
Yeah,
man.
it's one of those things where, like, I will agree with you on the challenges. I do like them. I have a bone to pick with the never get hit only because, like, in multiplayer, when you're playing online, if anyone on your team gets hit, you're done. And so if you're playing, like, multiplayer online, you can't get it on the stage. Like, the only way you could do that is, like, doing local co-op and, like, coordinating and moving slowly. And I can't.
I
It's too much.
played this game with some of my friends and their 3-year-old. And we had no illusions about getting any of those challenges. But I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about trying to coordinate with people. With a 3-year-old who is actually, for a 3-year-old, very, very good at video games. Very good.
Nice.
But also, it was getting late, and he would just keep getting distracted, but didn't want, like, mommy to start playing, even though she's good at video games, too. He's like, no, it's me. All right, well, you're going to have... Do you hear the turtles yelling, go? We have to go, buddy. So that all went out the window. Sorry. Just, you reminded me. It's pretty funny.
It's me. I'm that 3-year-old.
You are. You gotta go,
like-
man. Come on.
I don't mind the challenges. That one specific challenge of not getting hit, there's just, like, frustrating.
But they only put it in the first level, so that I appreciate
That's
that.
not true. There's at least one other level with it later on. Yeah.
It might have been like one of the boss only. It was a
Yeah,
shorter one, I think.
Yeah, it was one of the shorter levels. But yeah, like, and then a bunch of the, like, auto scrollers have the don't get hit by obstacles thing, and it's fine.
That I feel suits those levels.
Right. I think for me, mostly, I had no illusions of getting all the achievements. I haven't been an achievement hunter since the Xbox 360 era. Like, I get whatever achievements I did. I did get an achievement this morning. I got the defeat a boss with your special achievement, which I somehow managed to not get. already.
Those things just pop up.
Nice.
I do
Yeah.
want to point out, speaking of obstacles, I love that obstacles hurt your enemies.
Yes.
Yes.
Enemies hurt enemies, obstacles hurt enemies. It adds to the chaos, and it makes it feel, even when you're overwhelmed, a little less unfair.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I don't remember exactly when it first hit me, when it first occurred to me that happens, but when it did, oh my God, I was cackling, just maniacal laughter, and I was starting to lose more because I was trying to hit them less and just get them hit more. Again, another way of engaging with the game. I love when that happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
totally,
didn't realize
yeah.
for too long that you could like knock things back. Like I didn't realize you could like knock arrows and manhole covers back at them. And then I started getting hit repeatedly, just trying to do that all the time. I didn't even
Like
want
just
to.
line up the shots.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, I need this.
It's like a
What am
batting
I-
cage.
Just
One of
kick
my-
them. No, this.
One of my favorite tiny details also is you have a charge attack in this game, and for all the characters it's pretty straightforward what you'd expect, except Casey Jones, who pulls out a golf club and a golf cap when you start the charge up attack, and I love that little detail. It's so unnecessary and yet it fits so well.
Well, I mean, again, it is an eminently absurd game.
Yeah.
I love that they continue to color code the foot soldiers based on what weapon they use.
Yeah.
And that is what got me to start questioning the supply chain of the Foot Clan. Not that they've created an infinite amount of sophisticated martial arts robots. No, where are they getting that many crossbows that fire plungers? Really? That's a lot of naginatas that you're using against us. My goodness. What is the... Like,
How does Shredder and Krang not go broke before they take over the world, right?
Dimension X tech, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
They have they had 3D printing before we did, right?
God, I for their sake, I hope so.
I love this game so much. I think before we wrap up, I think a fun thing would be to talk about maybe a favorite moment in the game that you had. For me, it's absolutely the second to last boss fight. So the story of this game, and I guess skip ahead a few seconds if you don't want story spoilers for this arcade game you can beat in 2 hours. But like the Turtles in Time game, the Statue of Liberty gets stolen again. But what's really cool about it this time is you're chasing Krang's body parts the whole time until Krang is reassembled. But then after you fight Krang reassembled, you fight Krang controlling the Statue of Liberty as a giant Krang body. And like,
And what do they call that statue now?
I forget the name of it. What was it called?
The Statue of Tyranny.
Oh, you're right, the Statue of Tyranny. And like that moment is just so fun, and probably my favorite moment in the whole game, where you get to that boss fight and you're like, oh, I have to fight the Statue of Liberty. All right, let's go. Come on,
It's
let's
fighting
do
an
it.
SNK boss at the end of a fighting game kind of setup.
Yeah. Or like, Marvel's Capcom 2, like when you're fighting a giant blob or whatever. Yeah. It was so much fun. It's so cool. And to get to hear a reprise of the Krang theme. I don't think it was in that fight. I think it was the fight before. Like, I loved that theme from Turtles in Time. And so I'm so happy that they brought it back for this game. But I guess Jeff and then Sulfur. Jeff, do you have a favorite standout moment from the game that you can think of?
I mean, it does feel a little bit cheap to like point towards final bosses as big moments, but there was dozens of little moments that I could be here all day. But speaking to my nostalgia, something I did so much as a kid playing Turtles games was my first time learning the Konami code was for Turtles 3.
Oh, wow.
So in my brain, it's A-B start, not B-A start, even though I know what it's supposed to be. So that would get you the level select, how many lives. So the amount of times I have fought Super Shredder at the very end of Turtles 3 is innumerable. And so getting to face a Super Shredder in Shredder's Revenge was wonderful for my soul, and including the fact that it was a boss that had invincible times. I love that there's a life bar at the bottom so that you can see whether or not you're doing damage, and it's like, oh, this is a void. It felt like a very cool, fast-paced boss. And the fact that he doesn't have the insta-kill fireball anymore that turns you into a basic turtle and you die. This is real nice. The music ruled. The fight was great. The design, incredible. Why does the ooze make his clothes change too? Stop asking so many questions, kid. Do you want to fight a boss or not? It's just the right amount of everything. And yeah, given how many times I have fought Super Shredder as a kid, if it was the first time getting to do that as an adult, felt great.
What about you, Sulfur?
Well, I hate to be 3 for 3 for bosses, but I am going to go for a different boss. For me, actually, it was I want to say is it 3 levels in that you fight Ground Chuck and Dirtbag? I think it is.
That's the 3rd level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, when I saw them the first time, I almost fell out of my chair, and I've been debating doing this whole podcast. I'm sorry for everybody listening because you won't be able to see this, but I actually have all these Ninja Turtle figures kind of just hanging on the wall.
man.
My dad got them for me at one point.
Still in box and everything. Love it.
Yeah, my dad was very excited to get these for me while he was still here, and it was like this thing where he doesn't know anything about turtles, but he knows what the person sold them on, and he said, "Hey, there's these are really rare Ninja Turtle figures still in the package, and he got them for me for Christmas." He was so excited to give them to me, and some of them are pretty rare, and 2 of them are those characters, and so to see those in the game, and I was searching for this analogy earlier, and I just couldn't quite grab it, but you can really feel, if you're a fan of something and then you experience some form of art, whether it's, let's say, nerd rap mixtape or, a video game, and you can tell that the people that made that were also fans. There's those just spot-on nods and those things that just maybe haven't been explored yet. Like, I've never seen those characters in a video game before. And to see those... Man, I almost fell off the couch. I was just so excited. I definitely almost lost, and that's not a hard boss battle.
No.
It was just so good. So that was probably like one of the biggest standout moments for me was that boss battle.
I should amend. It is the 4th stage because the 3rd stage is when you fight Bebop and Rocksteady in the turtle. In the
right.
The 3rd walking stage. The 3rd stage is the first jet board.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's where I call bullshit on physics in Turtles games. Look, you can have as many weapons and robots and mutants and everything as you want. Really, there's that many of a type of technology of a rocket-powered surfboard, skateboard that when you jump and move around always follows you. I mean, really. Immersion broken, worst game ever.
I'm so glad that you brought up the characters because, like, the Ninja Turtles Rogues Gallery is, I think, one of the only Rogues Galleries superior to Batman in the sense that they were making toys. Like, they were literally creating characters to sell toys, and some of the concoctions they came up with were so bizarre. It was just, and that they have then made appearances in these characters that were created just to be toys then showed up in the later cartoons as actual characters with backstories. Like, always incredible to me, and like I love that we get so many shout outs and nods here. And like, for example, I remember Dirtbag from the 3rd game. He is a boss in the 3rd game. But
in the subway level.
In the subway level. But that's literally the only time he's ever appeared before.
Yeah.
Ground Chuck, I don't think is in the 3rd game. He might be. I vaguely remember, but like to your point, Sulfur, like not commonly. A lot of these, like I remember Mutagen Man. Mutagen Man was this like weird concoction of like a giant test tube with his eyes and brain floating around. It was like this weird mutagen that just turned a man into liquid, and that like then in the CG cartoon many years later he was actually a villain, like that was like a scientist who got screwed over. Like I love those kinds of nods. It's this game is full of them. And
Ground Chuck was the boss on the battleship level of TMNT 3.
Oh yeah,
I thought that was correct. That I just needed to confirm it. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. Like but this is what I love
didn't
about this
remember.
franchise. Like
I played 3 a lot. More than any of the others.
I love that this franchise is so full of references, and it's so easy to dive into, whether you know the references or not. Like, the good thing about these references is they're great to us, but to people, like we said before, who've not played these games, it's just like, oh, that's a cool looking boss. Or
Yeah, they're
that
weird
boss
toy
looks really
designs
great.
that you're fighting. It's great.
Yeah, it's really, truly great. This game is incredible. I'm so glad that we got to talk about it. I'm glad we had the foremost Ninja Turtles expert with us, one Sulfur. Before we wrap up and sign off this incredible episode of SideQuest, I would love for you, Sulfur, to tell folks where they can find you online, find your music online, check out all the cool stuff that you've been working on.
Easily put, you can find me at sulfurmusic.com. Just go there. You can find links to all my social media. You can find music about the Wheel of Time, and maybe I'll put the Ninja Turtles album back on there for a little bit after this airs. So
Nice. Hell yeah. Enter the 36th chamber.
Yeah, I'm really glad I got to listen to that. That's a hell of an album.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
My favorite track on that record is still the rap track between Bebop and Rocksteady, where I believe it's Tribe One and Jesse are Bebop and Rocksteady, or is it?
It's Tribe One and me, but
Tribe One and you. That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
Dang.
Jesse is in a different part. Yes.
Yeah, Jesse's amazing too. Jesse does Donatello, and he does a voice for Donatello. I re-listened to it recently, and it just blew me away. I had to get at them. I was like, oh my god, this is so good.
You had an all-star cast, and then like one of my favorite moments from the modern Turtles movies, which were hit or miss, but like when they're like starting to make a beat and rap in the elevator, and like I had heard that reference on your album before I saw that movie because I didn't see it too many years later. I was like, oh, this is where that's from.
Yes.
But thank you for joining us again. This was great. Of course, you know where to find me and Jeff. We are at Fun and Games Pod everywhere. Jeff Makes Noise in most places. I am, of course, DJ_Stormageddon. Thank you for joining us on this incredible side quest into TMNT Shredder's Revenge, and we will see you in the next episode. And as always, happy gaming. Hi, I'm Matt, aka Stormageddon, and I'm the host of CPOV Autographs at certainpov.com. It is a bi-weekly interview series where I interview folks from all over the arts, from writers to comedians to magicians to musicians, even actors, historians, podcasters, pretty much anyone who's willing to chat with me for a little bit. If you like interesting conversations with even more interesting people, go to certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, music is life, and life is good.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.